Here is a funny experiment. This is water. Could be any water. It could be wine, it could be orange juice, it could be tea, it could be meat stock, because all these products are mostly water. And this is a very good essential oil. Indeed, it's not true. It's olive oil. But imagine that it would be a very good essential oil. You all know that oil is not soluble into water. So I will not try to pour this oil in this glass because it would float at the surface. Now I know that God gave us ethanol, which is a wonderful product. And I know that some hydrophobic compounds can dissolve into ethanol, sorry. And now here is the experiment. A large number of droplets disperse into water. Of course, I used some energy, not the energy of shaking, because the energy is zero, but the chemical energy that was used to make the wool set of surfaces around the droplets. And what is most fascinating in this experiment is that if you wait, and even if you put it in the oven at, let's say, 100 Celsius degree, not 100 Celsius because water will evaporate, but quite hot, after some time, the oil droplet will distribute in the water, which means that the kinetic energy is bigger than the creaming one, which means that key T is very important, and probably we don't have to make neutron beams experiment to measure the size of the droplets, because if they are distributed, it means that some of them are nano. Okay, this is cooking. I will not get the Nobel Prize for that because it is the pastis or the Arak or the Ouzo effect. But what I can tell you is that in my lab now, I have this kind of system which are stable for more than 6 months. So this is nano, but indeed nano, I'm not sure I care about nano because if you eat only nano food, it's not a lot. So I would prefer to eat more. So in order to answer the question of Professor Yong-Juk, who invited me, I wanted instead to draw from molecular gastronomy what could be useful perhaps for you. So this is a possibility. So I will take the example of a sauce, because a sauce, this is related to a sauce. Here is a recipe by Pierre Gagnère, who is probably the best chef of the world. Trust me, if you cannot read, it means that I don't want you to read. Okay. So I just wanted to give you the impression of the recipe. The recipe is not over. It's very, very long. Generally, you need 2 hours to explain a recipe by Pierre Gagnère. So the question is not there. The question is, because this is also the recipe. The question is there. This is a dispersed system. We could call it a colloidal system, according to UPAC. And we eat mostly dispersed system. I have the pleasure to tell you that you are gels, because you are mostly water, and this water does not flow. This is the definition of a gel, more or less. Okay, so gels, here is a gel. It's a shallot. You have water dispersed into a solid network. The size, you know that the size is not nano. The size is micro, but it's not a problem. It would be the same. The lecture of tonight is a metaphor of you have to interpret each word that I'm saying, you have to interpret into nano, okay? So this is meat. Meat is a gel, of course, you have fibers. Fibers. Then they don't have the same structure as the cells. Now, on your left, this is a gelatin gel. On your right, I don't show the internal structure, but it is also a gel. You see that there are differences. For example, in some cases, for example, the gelatin, you could diffuse. I mean, not you, but your system could diffuse. With a shallot, you could not, probably. So this is a question. Now, I told you that most food are gels, and indeed chocolate is a gel, because chocolate, at room temperature, some part of the fat is liquid and some part is solid. So what you see is only the solid part. This is indeed a gel. Of course, when you eat, you don't have only gels. For example, on your espresso, you have a foam. This is a foam. It's a colloidal system, but it's not a gel. When you look at a potato, you have some teeny starch granules dispersed into water, dispersed into the solid. So it's more complicated. And now we have, by the way, granules dispersed into a plasma. This is an egg yolk. But the granules are very, very small. And now you are nano. When you make a custard, you add some sugar. You see the sugar, they are very, very big compared to the granules. Some air bubbles, they are not very important. When you whip to make the custard, then it turns white because you introduce a lot of air bubbles. So this is a complicated system with solid, with gas, with a nano system, with big, weak solids, with fat probably. So we need some description. And when I was looking at the bibliography before coming, I could see that one of the problems of the nano sciences is the description of the object. Of course, when you have a fullerene, it's easy because it's a molecule, so you see clearly. Now, this is taught at the university, generally, in physical chemistry. It's the introduction. But which kind of system is this one? Because you see, it's a suspension in a gel. So it's not a suspension, it's a gel, and suspension in the gel is too long. So here is a treaty of logic, and this guy said, please calculate and make formulas. This is exactly what Lavoisier did when he introduced the formalism of chemistry. So let's do it. We play with gas, with solid. Of course, solid, I know what a solid means or does not mean. So we play with solid, with gas, with oil, with water. We could add other phases like ethanol, for example. And then we have some processes. The most ubiquitous is random dispersion, but you could have a mixture and so on. So let's play. We need a scale, by the way, because in this case, we don't consider the organelles which are present. We consider what we see, the starch granules, the cells, and that's all. So we could add some information, and you recognize a mayonnaise sauce is oil into water, and you have the size of the oil droplets. Okay? The potato, now, the formula is very easy, 3 letters. Of course, you can guess that you can make a degree of complexity in order to make categories later on. Now you can add information. I will not be long on this. Remember, they say that when you have the formula, then you can make the machine run and you produce formula. Many formula, an infinite number of formula. And this is important because this is exactly what Lavoisier wanted to make. So let's come back to we have the scale, we now have the potato, we have information. We could describe the process, the transformation. You all know probably that chemists are not butterfly collectors. They are looking at the transformation, not the molecule. So we have to describe the molecule. Is all this useful? Indeed, I applied that formalism to all the French classical sauces. There are 451. This is what science is doing mostly. And I took all of them. It took me 1 year to produce a list of 23 categories. Some easy categories are missing, which means that we can invent new sauces just taking one formula and making it in the kitchen. Of course, people in the cosmetic industry are interested because they look at their catalog, they make an order. Oh, this system does not exist. But of course, you could do the same. Because this applies at any scale. If you look at any picture that I could see this afternoon, I could apply, and there was, I did my best to try to know if I was able or not to describe all systems using the formula, and it was not very difficult. So it is possible. Why only 23 categories? Forget the dot on the left, but on the right you see that the number of physical categories of sauces increased with time in history. Now, When you have described the matter, you did not describe the organization. In food, it's not a regular organization, which means that crystallographical systems are not useful. So we need another one. This other one, you play with the dimension of system, so a dot, a thread, to a surface, a volume. You have the same operators, which is fascinating, but obvious. Again, a question of scale, and this is very funny. We swallowed Terragon 5 times, 100 times, and the histogram has the same cutoff. Of course, because it is the size of the teeth which is important. Sometimes the size of the granules is important. And when you go to your dentist, you know, they put a piece of blue paper after finishing their work in order to be sure that the size is less than 15 micrometers because it is the perceptible size of what you eat. Just to know how it works, now the grain of rice is dimension 0. The spaghetti is dimension 1, this is dimension 2, and this is also dimension 2. And now we can go on and go on and go on to build system and to invent new system that we did not envision before. So it's fascinating that we can play with this formalism. Computers are very useful. And in the end, the two can meet. The chemical description and the physical organization. And this is how you can recognize that there are different kinds of gels. Up to now, there is a mess in chemistry. We say gels. For example, when you make a column of chromatography, we say that it is a gel, but it has nothing to do with the gel of gelatin or the gel of ourselves. So now it's possible to distinguish the gels. I will probably need more than one life, so I hope I will be a cat to get from the formula through the physical system, through the physical and chemical property. Is it possible to predict the physical properties of a system of which you have a formula? It would be wonderful. And it is the same question that for drug making. When you make a drug, you look at the chemistry and you hope to know the effect in pharmacy. So this is the Holy Grail. Of course, the world is complex, but remember what you see is probably a rectangle, otherwise you're blind. If you enlarge a rectangle, you see also rectangles. But if you look carefully, oh, there are teeny details. And if you look at bigger scale, wow, bigger details, and you remember that the length of the coast of Brittany is infinite. I made the calculation for you. But remember, this is a rectangle, and this is a method. We have to distinguish the various scales. Very important, because when you use your nanosystem, you use your nanosystem inside a macroscopic system. So you will have the problem to distinguish the various scales. Now, what I'm doing at the lab is using always the same method. The same method is a rectangle is a rectangle. So for example, when I'm doing an NMR spectroscopy of a carrot stalk, what I see is water. That's obvious. Of course, if I look more, this is the tool that I'm using. Now, if I'm looking at another scale to make the big peak too big to be seen, then I can see small peak. But this is the first order of description. And now, if I get closer, now the noise appears, and I can distinguish new information. But one at a step, it will be useful. I'm not saying that there are no correlation between the big and the small, and the critical opalescence in thermodynamics is a demonstration of the reverse. But now, how to apply this? For example, this is a foam. Of course, there is a teeny, this is the foam of your espresso. There is a teeny quantity of fat in your coffee. But what you look, you don't see the fat. So finally, remember the rectangle, the formula is simple. When you look at this, of course, there are teeny details, but like in organelles and so on. So, of course, we could describe as a big formula, but indeed, remember, it's a rectangle, so it's simple. So depending on the scale, you can choose if you indicate the scale that you are using. And then, depending on the scale, you can have various formula of the same system focused on what you want to see. So this is simple. So chocolate, again, the temperature is important. It's the same as for butter. You have about 60% of water in fat, but you see the fat is not, they are fats. So they are not melting at the same time. And this is why, because of this wonderful Rome theorem, you know that at room temperature, there is some liquid. And now, let's try to apply. Nobody knows the structure, the physical structure of butter and chocolate, which is fascinating. We are living in the 21st century, sending probes to Mars, making nano objects, but we don't know the structure of butter, which is crazy. So I try to apply the formula in order to guess what it could be. Of course, this is only fat and butter, but you have to add butter, which is more complicated. Now we have a set of possibilities, and now we can have a theoretical assumption that you can test. Okay, so finally, here is probably the formula of chocolate. And just to finish, this is models, and you know the people from politics always say scientists are very expensive, and it is not very useful because they play with models. Okay. So I wanted to show that it is not true, and I wanted to come back to the recipe by Pierre Gagnard. Can we apply really this formalism to real world, which is the most complicated Pierre Gagnard recipe? So I took it again, this is the recipe, and now gesture after gesture. For example, here first you cut the cod, then you put the cod pieces in boiling milk. Okay, so now you have the formula and the transformations. Now you soak the cod and you put them into melted butter. Easy. Now you separate the egg white from the egg yolk, and you get a new description, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And finally, the formula is not so difficult. It's not, for a very difficult recipe, the whole formula is not so difficult. So I would conclude saying that it is not impossible to do something that it is silly, because you have to consider each elementary step. It's not impossible to make the whole description. Finally, what's the use? In the kitchen, people are working hard, making things, and so on and so on. But finally, the real goal is this one. And probably it's the one that you have, curing people, making machines, many things. Very important. We have to be together. We are a social species. And now I'm coming back to me, not to you. Is it useful for me? I mean, for my job. My job, it's not culinary constructivism. It's true that depending on the way you build your food, you will have different sensations. For example, on your left, imagine that the green part on the bottom would be a slice of smoked salmon, and the top part will be a jelly of grapefruit. In your mouth, you would smell the odor of grapefruit, but taste the jelly, the salmon. If you put it upside down, you will have the different sensation. This is culinary constructivism. For example, this is built, this is built, this is built, this is built, this is built. And by the way, I have an assumption to propose to you. When it is built, it is beautiful. Look at this one. It is built, it is beautiful, more or less. Look at this one. It is not built, it is not beautiful. Look at this fish. It's a turbot fillet. Turbot fillet is considered as a beautiful fish. But indeed, it's white. So it's not beautiful, except that you recognize the building. So who is so the assumption runs that if something is built, it means that the cook says, I love you. So of course it's beautiful. So who is responsible for this big fish? Thanks God is beautiful. God loves us. And this is the first dish of the history of cooking that was entirely built on purpose for sensory sensation. Now this is built, but too built, like a prostitute. This one is built. Now this one is built, this one is built. in temperature, because you can build not only in geometry, you can build in chemistry, you can build in biology, you can build in many options. So this is built, this is built. Oh, by the way, this is an artificial orange. So the orange juice has been made into small bags, and these bags have been glued. The limonene of the orange peel has been put into the jelly around. So very easy to make. Now, I will show you for some seconds the future of your food. Perhaps you want to eat your Swiss fondue, but Swiss fondue is over. Molecular cooking is there. But the next step is node-by-node cooking. Node-by-node cooking means you begin with cooking. Cooking means meat, pans, fruit and vegetables, which are all mixtures. But imagine that you have a carrot, which is a mixture, and this carrot is not good. What you do? You add some sugar. So you have a mixture plus one element. But then it's obvious that you can play element by element, note by note in music. Okay? So we should not forget physiology, it's important, but what are the notes that we can eat? Water, many acids, glucose, glycerol, the anthocyanins, which are good for your health, ethanol, wonderful, sugar, fructose dehydrogenase, they are present in caramel. By the way, these are the Maillard reaction responsible for the taste of roasted chicken. Be careful that in the bottom there is some here there is some H2S, which is a very awful gas. There is only one advantage to this gas. It has been demonstrated that it is most efficient than Viagra. So, okay, and now the future is already there in the kitchen. In Hong Kong, Pierre Gagnère made a wonderful dish with many of my inventions, the Nollet salad, the Kinsheim. Generally, I'm giving the name of physicists and chemists of the past to these dishes. So there were many, many dishes. And in the end, this is Rolling Stones, not a chemist. But in the end, this was the Gibbs function in thermodynamics. And in the end, this is the first note-by-note dish of the history of cooking. It's not nano, unfortunately, up to my knowledge. There are new chefs working, making note-by-note dishes. It is wonderful when it is well done. Sometimes they play with test tube, which is just appearance or show. Sometimes they use real stuff, mushrooms in this picture. Wow, why not? So let's move to these dishes. There are dishes and dishes, more and more on note-by-note cooking. There is a real raspberry, unfortunately. This is a dessert of the future, again. Again, we are playing with this thing. And for the International Year of Chemistry, because remember, celebrate chemistry in 2011, we produced a wonderful, not me, I'm not a cook, I'm a physical chemist. And this is why, what is molecular gastronomy in the end? Because I spoke of nano, but not of molecular gastronomy. So I have to tell you shortly, it is science. Science means experiment and calculation. So we have a method, this scientific method, I apply it to soufflé, to coq au vin, to Swiss fondue, to anything, hoping that I will make a big discovery. It was created in 1988. What are we doing in the lab? We are studying very simple thing, what's going out of a carrot and how. When you make a carrot stock, so we are using NMR spectroscopy, getting spectra, exploring the spectra, getting amino acids, sugar, looking at chemical processes because they are important, making models, differential equations. Sometimes it's very funny. For example, in these two stocks, it is the same carrot. One was brown, the other was orange. Why? Carotenoids are not soluble into water, so they cannot be responsible for the color. So we investigated this process. We measure the color. The color is evolving in a certain plane, A', B', L', don't worry. We investigated the chemistry of the thing. We finally discovered that galacturonic acid is probably responsible for the color of stock. And light was important. When you have two stocks, if one carrot stock has no light, it will be orange, the other will be brown. So it's useless to put a grilled onion in your stock, just put light. So this is the relationship between science and technology. Of course, we had a model, very simple. We are trying to refute the theories. We never demonstrate a theory, it's not possible. And finally, celebrate chemistry because it's wonderful and it is the future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this beautiful introduction of the Apéro Riche that we will have, and it's open for questions only until 1:15. He has to catch his plane. So,
don't ask me a recipe.
Is there a question or not? If not, I would wonder how complicated is the formula of Swiss fondue?
Oh no, it's not very difficult for Swiss fondue. You have fat. Cheese is fat plus
Don't
protein.
say something bad, huh?
Sorry?
Don't say something bad. Try to.
No, but you have to recognize that cheese is first fat. You have fat, you have proteins, and you have water. So if you put the cheese, I never thought about that question before, but if you, because I don't say Swiss fondue, I say Savoyard fondue. But if you
but
put...
you know that we invented it.
If you put the cheese, you have all the micelles that are, the micelles, there are many discussions for the model of micelles. The micelles are small aggregates, by the way, teeny, nano aggregates, and there is a discussion just to know if the phosphate groups are linked directly with the calcium ions in a, let's say, closed form or in a hollow structure. Probably it's a hollow structure. There is a big amount of discussion for the fat also. In my bag, I have a paper saying that you have the fat droplets, and around there are bilayers of phospholipids. I don't trust this model because it's true that when the cow produces the milk, the fat droplets bring some phospholipid bilayer. But you remember the Ostwald maturation effect, which means when you have two small structures, it's very frequent that when you store the system, they fuse and the volume increase. This is why you should not store your ice cream in the fridge for too long. But if you do this, there is a reduction of the surface of the area, which means that probably you have an onion shell. So you have the water first order of erection, then the fat droplets are dispersed, and then these droplets are dispersed probably by the onion shell of phospholipids, but also the caseins are important. They are probably depending on the wine you used, because the pH is very important, you know. If you have a low pH, the calcium ions will not behave the same, and the structure of the micelles perhaps can disagrade, and then you would dissolve. So in order to answer your question, I would say that I invite the Swiss chemists to look carefully at their own cooking. So if you consider that the fondue is Swiss, you have to do the job.
What is the status of synthesizing meat from proteins from plants? I mean, there are people dream, like Professor Heckel in Munich, they dream about the nanoschnitzel because meat from animals has a fairly large carbon dioxide footprint and so on. So it would be much more efficient to directly synthesize it from plant proteins. Can you comment on this?
The question is if you can synthetically produce meat, what the status of the art is. Because when you kill an animal, the CO2 footprint is huge. So the question is, how far away are we of synthesizing meat?
You know, the question, probably you are discussing the node-by-node cooking part at the end. Remember 20 years ago, when the synthesizers were introduced in music, many people said, wow, it will be awful. We have the piano, we have the violin, we have the trumpet, we have everything, and the synthesizer is useless, and in particular, because it will be too difficult to make the sounds and the spatial sound. Today, when you hear the radio, you have synthesizers everywhere, and the trumpet and the piano are completely over. So I would say that meat, I don't care about meat. I don't care about fruit and vegetable. I care only about what I'm eating. If it is good, by the way, if you have a synthesizer reproducing piano, it's not very interesting. You have already the piano. So imagine that you ask me to make some wine synthetically. It is very easy. Water, 10% ethanol, some tannic acid, and so on. So very, very easy. Roman Kaiser in Dubendorf from Givaudan gave me for Christmas as a present, as a gift, a small bottle. It is a Haut-Brion wine 1985. Very easy to make, but it's wonderful made. So making a copy of something that exists already is not very interesting. But discovering billions and billions of new flavors, this is incredible. So the question of meat is not so important. I'm not a vegetarian, a very good pheasant, why not? But if I can make something better, imagine. You know, the roasted chicken are traditional. Okay, or Swiss fondue. But slavery was traditional, and it was not good.
Okay. Is there further urgent question? If this is not the case, please join me to thank the speaker of that session again, and we'll see you again.